I'm here this afternoon at Superinvest with Helen Steers, who probably needs no introduction, but for the few people who don't know her, is a partner with Pantheon Ventures and head of European primary investment. Helen, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks very much, Simon.
Pantheon has been active in private equity since what,
1982. So last year we celebrated our 30th anniversary in private equity.
That's a pretty unusual track record. You've obviously built up very good procedures, very good data for diligencing the many new fund investments you make. In 2008, we had a massive disconnect as a result of the financial crisis. Has your approach to due diligence and manager analysis changed as a result of that? And if so, how?
I think it's a great question. I think what happened in 2008 caught a lot of people by surprise. And you're quite right, there was a sort of dislocation. So a lot of people became under a lot of stress in their portfolio companies. Clearly there were fewer deals being done, there were fewer exits as well, so fewer distributions. And because of that, now when we come to look at managers nowadays, a lot of managers actually have not got the realizations or the exits that will give them that great sort of realized track record that they can then go out and raise a new fund on the back of. So a lot of our due diligence always has been focused on unrealized portfolios. But I think even more nowadays, we dig a lot deeper into those unrealized assets. We want to hear a lot more about how they're valued, GP's valuation methodology, and also about the exits for the exit scenarios, how they're actually going to get out of those companies, how they're going to create the value. And we really create a value bridge for every single company in the portfolio.
Wow, so that must involve a lot of effort to actually crunch. There's a huge amount of underlying data.
There is a lot of data, but we're very privileged in that we have been around for 30 years. And I think we've got better at capturing data. So one thing I should say is that since the financial crisis, I think the GPs have got better at supplying us with data.
Right.
And we probably got better at storing it, retrieving it, analysing it, and then really putting it to better use.
And do you find, when you're looking at track records, obviously if you look at funds that were invested pre-financial crisis, those are typically investments that will be realised, but were made and realised, grown in a very different environment from the environment today. Whereas you look at post-2008 investments, and where you're often talking about 2010, 2011, 2012, they're still very young, very unrealised.
Yes.
Which do you place more weight on?
Well, I think you've got to look at both. And I would say that we've spent some time talking about the quantitative side of it, but a large part of this is all to do with the qualitative as well.
Right.
So when you're talking about what people have done in the past, the results they've had, what they're doing now, and what they want to do in the future, obviously you have to look at their strategy, and you have to look at their resources. And quite often what we find is the people that were doing those deals back, 10, 15 years ago, they're actually no longer there. Because the other thing that happened in 2008 was I think it's accelerated some succession planning and some changes in the GPs as well. For
the good, or?
Yeah, I think that we need evolution in the industry. It's still a relatively young industry. And therefore, after 30, 40 years, you would expect there to be actually probably a few succession changes in some of the GPs. And probably some of them tackled it a little bit belatedly. Now we're seeing that, coming along.
So you feel that will be a good for the industry over the next few years?
I think it's sort of a coming of age, actually, Simon. I think that, people probably didn't plan very much. A lot of deal shops around. People probably never thought beyond that sort of group of, tightly grouped investors in a particular GP. But many GPs are becoming more institutionalized, and even the small and sort of mid-market groups that we invest with, realize they need to pass on the baton to the next generation.
Great. Well, look, thank you for sharing your thoughts this afternoon, Helen.
Thanks to you, Simon. Thank you.